We can negotiate with anybody, even with the devil, for the sake of Uganda. If Obote wants to chip in the cost of the war by talking, then we can talk to him. What matters is what would we talk about. I think that's what is more important, the content of the negotiations.
Why should I talk to Museveni? I said it's not a personal matter as far as I'm concerned. Museveni was a member of the military commission. He was number 2 in the military commission. He and the rest of the members of the military commission organized elections. And soon after elections, he decided to fight. And he hasn't progressed very much in his own area where he was born. He's not effective, he's not known, and he's a refugee himself in another part of Uganda. So I really don't know what he wants.
We can negotiate with anybody, even with the devil, for the sake of Uganda.
Why do you think Museveni is all that important in this country?
I have justice for forming a new party is that we want to solve the missing link. Where is the missing link? What's wrong with Uganda? There's that question. What's wrong with you Ugandans? You're always in crisis. You're always in trouble. What's wrong with you? So we want to answer that question. UPM also believes that ultimately the people, the population, are the ultimate guarantors of their own freedom.
She's running away from Obote's soldiers and police because if he finds her there, he will slaughter.
Olunakolo basooka ne baseeringa ne bayingira ne bajja abaana enki abamu ne badduka ne bakwata maama wange ne bamutta n'ente ne bazitwala ne ssente ne bazitwala ne waba omulaalo gwe baali basise omulaalo waffe bwe yajja n'agamba maama wamwe bamusonyiwa ne bagamba gweddayo omulaalo najja n'atulagirira maama waffe gy'afiiridde ne tujja ne tumuziika ne taata twamala okumuziika naffe ne tuvaawo naye ng'abantu ku kyalo kwonna baali tebaliiko naye nga bamutemyetemye.
Wananchi wa Uganda, songeni, ende songeni, tamba songeni, tutekendeze jeshi lobote tujenge Uganda masya.
Uganda made substantial progress between 1982 and 1985, but its human rights situation worsened. Mr. Obote was unable to control the military. In 1984, reports of atrocities by Mr. Obote's troops increased. The military waged an increasingly violent campaign against the National Resistance Army, led by former Defense Minister Museveni. Thousands of civilians were slaughtered by government troops.
I've not been acting for more than 20 years now. The last time I acted during a season.
Really? Where?
At school. School acting.
I was never any good at acting.
So that must be 22 years ago.
It's been said that you'd like to put an end to the kabakarship. Is that so?
It's not my problem to put an end to kabakarship. We have 4 kabakarship in Uganda. And it's not, I don't have to go for one. If I wanted to put an end to kabakarship, I would go for 4 or not 1.
But there is another aspect that has been felt throughout the country. This includes the fact that now we have a new constitution. It is also clear that because of the troubles, it was not possible for the whole country and even for the government to give the whole attention to the matter of nation building. A considerable amount of attention had to be given in concerning the dangerous situation which had developed in Uganda.
The members of the Uganda Army and Air Force decided to take over from the civilian rule because of the last arrangement which were made by the Dr. Apollo Milton Obote to disarm the whole tribe of Uganda except his own tribe, Langi and Acholi. And also, that is the point which brought all this problem.
This is even more important at the present time when we are in the process of transferring the control of our economy into the hands of our indigenous people. But no one will be allowed to acquire more than one business, industry, or buildings. To assist government in carrying out this exercise smoothly and equitably, forms have been prepared which I believe you are already familiar with as a result of the meeting which you had with my ministers this morning. I would like to take this opportunity to advise the outgoing Asians that it is in their own interest that they fill the appropriate forms as a matter of urgency to enable their property to be disposed of as soon as possible.
Because of the behavior of this regime, various groups, both inside and outside the country, have been doing their very best to remove the regime. They have been working in isolation and independently. Now, the purpose of this conference we had just concluded here in Moshi was to bring all these forces together and work as a united front. So the first thing we did was to form the Uganda National Liberation Front.
I want the world to understand this. The people of Uganda, the population, did not start violence. I was not a soldier, I was an intellectual. Why did I become a soldier? I became a soldier to defend myself and my people against state-inspired violence.
I have justice for forming a new party is that we want to solve the missing link. Where is the missing link? What's wrong with Uganda? There's that question. What's wrong with you Ugandans? You are always in crisis. You are always in trouble. What's wrong with you? So we want to answer that question. UPM also believes that ultimately the people, the population, are the ultimate guarantors of their own freedom.
Wananchi wa Uganda, songeni, endesheni tamba songeni, tutekendeze jeshi lobote tujenge Uganda mpya.
In 1981, you took to the bush with 27 other men with the aim of overthrowing the government of Milton Obote. On the face of it, a difficult, if not impossible task. Do you think of yourself as a gambler?
No, there was no gambling in the whole situation. We studied the balance of forces. We studied the dynamics of the situation. We knew that although we had 27 armed people, but we represented millions of potential soldiers. These thousands here, they were all civilians, all peasants. Many of them were peasants. So although the 27 armed people were a small number, they represented a huge force of potential soldiers.
First off, when did you join the NRA?
I joined the NRA in 1981.
And why did you join the NRA?
I joined the NRA because of a number of reasons. One, the conditions at that time in the barracks where I was staying were intolerable, and even in the country over. Because, for example, in the barracks where I was staying in Makindi, I witnessed a number of people, innocent people who were killed there, who were always being tortured in the army cells. And even my fellow army people, army men were killed there. Those who appeared to UPC royalists as sympathizers of other political parties.
What else can we do if you have got a government which has closed off all other channels of peaceful change? What else could we do except to surrender, to resign ourselves to slavery? And we couldn't do that as long as the people were willing. Because this is their own war. The people are actually the ones who urged us on to fight. If we do not have this support, we would never have started such a war. So it is to the people's benefit themselves. And the fact that they have been able to bear this suffering, as you have seen, is a testimony to the fact that this is their own war. These people are just using us. We are the instruments. If we had not started the war, we would have been declared traitors.
How would you describe the sort of war that the NRA is fighting at the moment from a military point of view?
It is a protracted people's war of the same type as were fought in some other countries, like China, for instance, and even other countries of the West, like America, United States itself. Actually, they are among the forerunners of this type of fighting. George Washington, when he organized the American settlers to fight against the army of George III. I think it was George III, was it? But the common characteristic is that a popular cause, which is very popular, but backed by initially irregular forces which are not regular armies, and which are not as armed as the establishment army, by using guerrilla tactics, eventually they build up enough strength to overwhelm the enemy. So this army is, this war is of the same category as the ones of Washington in America. I think there was also the war in Spain against Napoleon. When Napoleon was invading Europe, I think there was a people's war of this type. Mao Zedong, and many other wars in Vietnam and in Southern Africa and so on.
In your opinion, are conditions in Uganda today under President Obote worse than they were under the regime of Idi Amin?
Very much so. They are very much worse than they were under Amin. Because under Amin, first of all, Idi Amin was not killing people outside the intellectual class. He used to kill only the elite, elements from the elite who were threatening his position, or sometimes over rivalry, over business, things like that. But he never touched the peasantry. But Obote is killing everybody, the peasants, the working class, young children. So on the side of human rights, the repression of Amin did not go as deeply as the repression of Obote.
Olunaku olwo basooka ne baseeringa ne bwe baayingira ne bajja abaana nti abamu ne badduka ne bakwata maama wange ne bamutta n'ente ne bazitwala ne ssente ne bazitwala. Ono waba omulaalo gwe baali basise omulaalo waffe bwe yajja n'agamba maama wamwe bamusonyiwa ne bagamba gweddayo. Omulaalo n'ajja n'atulagirira maama waffe gy'afiiridde ne tujja ne tumuziika ne taata. Twamala okumuziika naffe ne tuvaawo naye ng'abantu ku kyalo kwonna baali tebaliiko naye nga bamutemyetemye.
Is in her cover, in her hiding place.
Why?
Lwaki obeera mu cover? She's at war. Otegeeza ki? Lwaki? She ran away. She ran away from bullets.
From?
Bullets from.
Whose bullets is she scared of?
Amasaso teyagaani. She's running away from Obote's soldiers and police because if he finds her there, he will slaughter.
Has Obote's police and soldiers killed many of her friends and villagers?
Bali basekko abantu bo oba ku kitundu.
Ekyo sibala bandesa n'omwana wange wa myezi 6.
They have killed many, including her child of 6 months.
A child of 6 months?
Yes.
How did they do that? Can I ask her?
Yes.
They're very sad.
How bakikola batya? Omwana bamusanga wa kumuta.
Banzija waka wange abajasibe ne bandeeta wano endejje tusale na batolokako.
What about omwana?
Nenzije no omwana ne muleka yekera gibamundesa.
Ne bamuta.
Omwana yafa n'abazadde bange ne babatta ebyaliwo ne byekera.
That she was arrested by Obote's soldiers, taken to a detach, UNRA detach at Ndeji, and that's where she escaped from. The child stayed there, was killed together with her parents.
And when was this?
Kinana Muguru.
1981.
Now, what's your job with the NRA?
My job has been mainly in the deliverance of medical services, both to the soldiers of NRA and to the population around our areas of operation.
And you run the medical facilities for the mobile brigade of the NRA?
That's right.
What sort of work does that entail?
It entails both the surgical procedures, treating casualties from gunshot wounds or shrapnels, and also treating the medical ailments like malaria, diarrheal diseases, hookworm infestations, and so on.
And this obviously takes quite a bit of medicine and instruments and so on to be able to carry out this work.
That's right.
Where do you get your instruments and medicine?
We raid the government hospitals and pick all the drugs and instruments we need. And they are quite sufficient. They are our quartermaster.
Do you have any other major problems working in the bush? What about the purely the field hygiene if you want to operate on someone you don't have a hospital here?
Oh yes, we have definite problems with hygiene. Even our theaters have to operate in quite septic conditions because we have no sterilizers, we have no refrigerators, so our conditions are really septic. We also have problems of hygiene, fighting with the population to use pit latrines, even the soldiers, but we have been carrying out a campaign and it seems to be working.
And ever since she's been living here?
But this is the 4th year since that time she has lived here, and she doesn't know what happened to the rest of her children.
She's a very strong lady. What does she think will happen in the future?
But always kigenda kubeerawo amabega gali mu byonna. She doesn't know, but she hopes for success.
What does she think of Museveni?
Museveni omulowooza koti.
Musabira kimu kuwangula tubona omulala.
She prays for him.
Is he better than Obote?
Omwagala nnyo kusinga Obote.
Senga simwagala tesenga ndi naye munsi.
But if she didn't like him, she wouldn't be with him in the bush.
Can you tell me what the conditions were that existed so that in 1981 you could start such a war?
The people had been completely disillusioned politically. They had no hope of any correction of their problems through the system as it was. And their only hope was through armed struggle. And then when we came and offered them the option, they were willing to support, willing and eager. Oh, they murdered a lot of people. It is estimated they murdered about 300 people. Indiscriminately, children, women, men. And they didn't even bury them as usual. They left them lying in the streets. So it was another horror story.
Why are they doing this, do you think?
I have no idea. It's their mentality. I have no idea. I cannot see any rationale behind what they are doing. Because it does not do them any good. It can't stop the war. So I really don't know why they are doing what they are doing. I think it may be because of primitive leadership. Fellows who are primitive intellectually and who may think that maybe by killing they will frighten the population. Or maybe just outright revenge, thinking that since you don't support us, we kill you in revenge.
No.
The ideas of the leaders, which are in unison with the interests of the population. I think that's what makes the difference.
And
if the leaders had wrong ideas, if we had wrong ideas, the NRA would be as bad as all the previous armies. We can negotiate with anybody, even with the devil, for the sake of Uganda. Because if it is cheaper to talk with we are talking with all sorts of people. We talk with Foster, this man of Bota of South Africa. Samara Machel has been talking to him. We talk to all sorts of people. If Obote wants to cheapen the cost of the war by talking, then we can talk to him. What matters is what would we talk about. I think that's what is more important, the content of the negotiations.
Exactly. Do you believe that you could actually achieve your aims through negotiations?
We may or may not. It depends on how weak Obote is. If we have weakened Obote sufficiently to be able to force him to do what we want, it can be done through negotiations, and that will save that amount of blood that would be shed to ensure a complete overthrow of Obote. We are not getting any external supplies of weapons. If we were doing that, this war would have been over long ago.
The places that have been newly liberated, many of the people there who are predominantly Bantu people were saying, well, it's about time that these Nilotics were taught a lesson. So if the trouble isn't coming from the Nilotics, perhaps it could come from the Bantu people.
Who would teach them a lesson? We won't allow it. We won't allow it. Who will teach them a lesson? Anybody who tries to teach the Nilotic people a lesson will learn a lesson from us. So...
Yo,
Museveni, do solemnly swear that I will well and truly exercise the functions of the high office of the President of the Republic of Uganda, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Republic of Uganda, and that I will preserve and defend the Constitution, and that I will do right to all manner of people, so help me God. I don't want to say much today, except to make a few points. One, nobody should think that what is happening today, or what has been happening in the last few days, is a mere change of guards. This is not a mere change of guards. I think this is a fundamental change in the politics of our country. Because in Africa we have seen so much change that change has become meaningless. It's no longer change but merely turmoil. This group getting rid of that group and that group doing worse than the group it got rid of. Now, please, I do not count us in that category of people. The National Resistance Movement, I think, is a clear-headed movement with clear objectives and with good membership. Of course, we may have some bad elements even among us, because we are part and parcel of the society of Uganda as it is. And in that way, you may not be able to completely guard against infiltration by the wrong elements. But since it is the deliberate policy of our movement to ensure that we uplift the quality of the politics of our country, I think it makes a very big difference from the situation in which we were, where the very people in power were they themselves encouraging evil instead of trying to combat evil. I think this is a slightly different situation. You may not be familiar with our program because it has been mainly in the bush, where many of you did not have access. And I cannot go through it in this ceremony, but I can just point out a few salient points in our program. Point number one on our program is the restoration of democracy.
The people of Africa, the people of Uganda, are entitled to democratic government. It is not a favor from any regime. It is the right of Africa to have democratic government all over the place. The people should be able to hire and fire any government. The sovereign people in the land must be the population, not the government. The government should not be the masters, but the servants of the population.
President Museveni, can you tell me what's the situation regarding the NRA's advance into the north of Uganda against the UNLA?
Yesterday, our forces captured the town of Soroti after some heavy fighting the previous day. Now they are some miles northwest of Soroti. On the western side, our forces are near Karuma. We have not taken the bridge itself. We have not even made an attempt to take the bridge yet by assault, but we are just softening them with artillery. But further west, we have reached the River Nile.
So, I mean, in many ways, recently people have been starting to say that this is a tribal war of Bantus against Nilotics. What do you say to people that say that?
That wouldn't be tribal in the first place. Maybe you would say it would be linguistic. It can't be tribal because these tribes which they call Bantu tribes are numerous, and so are the ones which they call Nilotic tribes. So it wouldn't be tribal even then. But is it a linguistic conflict? It certainly isn't. Because you find on our side, for instance, there are many commanders from the north of Uganda who are fighting with us now, apart from the ordinary people.
What are your greatest hopes for the future?
What is hope for the future is to build a united Uganda, which is prosperous as far as industry and agriculture are concerned, and which has got a balanced economy, and in partnership with the other East African countries, in order to exploit the big market of East and Central Africa.
Kuliwaka kabamba